But he's just awarded himself another 5 years in power. On what authority did he do that?
What about elections, holding elections? Is that important? Is democracy important?
What about the allegations of grand corruption?
Traore is not quite as saintly as people think.
There has been a tendency by the regime to victimize the Pearl people, the Fulani people.
This has more to do with people yearning for a hero and a savior than to do with the reality of Traore's actual performance and conduct within Burkina Faso.
Stop. You heard them. You had all these questions. So there's so many of these stories flying around, from detractors. With their propaganda of falsehoods, they spread so many lies, all in a bid to give Traore a bad name. Let's go back to those questions one by one, and let me give you my answer, my candid opinion about all those questions that are just being asked.
What about elections, holding elections? Is that important? Is democracy important?
But he's just awarded himself another 5 years in power. On what authority did he do that?
Under the authority of his people. Yes, under the authority of his people. And he even wanted to have an election when he took over. Guess what? His people said no. They said, we don't want anybody but you. They insisted. And to even show how serious they are, do you know that they sleep at the environs of the presidential house just to make sure that he's protected? Which other president in the entire world enjoys that kind of camaraderie from his people? His promise to his people when he took over was two things. One, to fight insurgency, and secondly, to improve the lives of his people. And that is exactly what he is doing. He's keeping his promise.
What about the allegations of grand corruption?
Grand corruption? Do you want to go there? In fact, this question must have been sponsored by General Langley, who said that he was using the gold of his people to do what again? To protect himself. I wonder whose gold he's supposed to be using to protect himself. The gold of other countries? And why would he even need protection in the first place? But let's get back to the corruption phase. I can tell you that most, if not all, of the democratically elected governments, particularly in the old French colonies, are the ones you should be talking to about grand corruption. They are the ones who perpetrate themselves in power. They are the ones who have their brothers, uncles, nieces, sons, daughters in offices running the government like it's their private home. They are the ones who conduct sham elections, change the constitution to keep them in power forever, and allow the imperialist France to carry all their resources while they jump at the crumbs that fall off the table and keep it for themselves and their children. They are the ones with houses in France and all over Europe. They are the ones who go to Europe for treatment. They are the ones who send their children to Europe to school. They are the ones who loot their country's resources, not Ibrahim Traore. This guy forfeited his presidential salary for crying out loud. He says he will not take the presidential salary. Why? Because he will not be living in luxury whilst his people are suffering. That is the logic. That was the mentality. That was the mindset.
Traore is not quite as saintly as people think.
Oh, he is. He is as saintly as people think. Even more saintly than people think. Like I said, he's the only African president that forfeited his salary, saying that he will not live in luxury whilst his people are suffering. He says he's a soldier and he'll take the salary of a soldier. He's not a president. That's one thing people keep confusing about him. He's not a politician. He says it continually. I am not a politician. I'm a soldier. So he's not going to be a politician. Let's not even begin to talk about his achievements. He is the only president. In 2 years, he paid off his debts. Whilst all the other African countries are busy borrowing money left, right, and center, and looking for financial aids, he became self-sufficient and paid off his debts. All internal debts. No loans from IMF or World Bank. Paid off his debts. Let's not talk about the hospitals he's building. Let's not talk about the schools he's building. And these things are free for his citizens. Let's not talk about the gold refinery. For the very first time, his country is not a raw material producer, but is going to be selling refined gold, which is how the West has been colonizing the whole of Africa before. We produce raw materials, we send it to them, they refine them, they send it back to us. And he says no. He has the tomato factory, he's built rice mills, he's constructing roads, dams for agriculture, satellites, manufacturing cars, building rail lines. Let's not even go to what he's done. We'll sleep here if I begin to mention all he's done. In just 2, 3 years. These other democracies that you people praise have been there for 15, 20, 30, 40, some of them 43 years. Nothing to show for it. He's been there for just 2 years plus. And he's achieved what they've not been able to achieve in 40 years. So he's even more saintly than people think. Trust me.
What about the security issue? It is now said less than a third of the country is now controlled by his regime.
This is just mere propaganda. We have stories of jihadists being decimated. In fact, some of them are beginning to even cry genocide. Jihadists crying genocide because they are being decimated. Of course, the job is still ongoing. It's not done. He's still fighting. He's reclaiming territories after territories. He's not reclaimed all the territories. But before he came in, territories were taken over by jihadists. He's chasing them out. And when those territories were taken over by jihadists before he came in, nobody was talking about 1/3 of the country being controlled by the jihadists or the government. He comes in and he's chasing them away, and people are beginning to lie about what's going on.
This has more to do with people yearning for a hero and a savior than to do with the reality of Traore's actual performance and conduct within Burkina Faso.
And why would people be yearning for a savior? If things were working well, why would people be yearning for a savior in the first place? Yes, people are yearning for a savior because things have been bad. People have been suffering. People are still suffering. And guess what? They found a savior. They found him. He's the one, as they say, he's the chosen one. He's doing what saviors do. Sending people to school for free, sending people to hospitals for free, giving people housing for free, giving people jobs in tomato factories, in rice mills, in airports, road construction, water dam projects, agriculture, setting people free, making them self-sufficient. He's doing what saviors do. So yes, he is a savior. And he's a savior strictly based on his performance. Nothing else, just because of his performance. That is why he is the people's savior. So yes, he is their savior. He is the people's savior. Which is why they are fighting to keep him alive. They don't want anything to happen to him because he is truly their savior.
Civil society has been comprehensively closed down. Journalists who go up against the Traore regime are either detained or sent to the war front.
Civil societies are not closed down. And honestly, any journalist who goes and tells lies about what's going on should be sent to the war front. Let him go there and see what's going on. I mean, if you're a journalist and because you're paid by whoever is sponsoring you, then you spread false information and you lie, then you deserve to be sent to the war front because it's a war going out there. There are jihadists and all that, and you're busy lying for your sponsors. You should truly be sent to the war front. I support that. I mean, if you're not afraid to tell lies, why should you be afraid to go to the war front? Why should you be afraid to go to the war front? There you'll see so many lies to tell.
There has been a tendency by the regime to victimize the Pearl people, the Fulani people.
The victimization of the Fulanis, that is propaganda. Trust me, the Fulanis are in Nigeria. Those people that I see crying that they are being victimized or whatever, they are terrorists. Trust me, we have them in Nigeria. I think you should even go to Nigeria to go and do more research and see what's going on with our Fulani headsmen and what they do to innocent women and children, farmers, and their communities. You should go to Nigeria and just see what they do. These questions were sent, we actually posed to the journalist David Hundeyin, and of course he held his own, he held his ground, and his answers were all on point. I just wanted to give my own version. That's it.